Let's talk to Robert Bates, who I'd completely forgotten about. My apologies. Research Director is here for the Centre for Migration Control. Robert, very good morning to you. We had the news this morning that we kind of saw yesterday. 705 migrants have now come in one single day to this country. We've got a migrant of the day as well from Nigeria, who apparently has a couple of autistic children who would miss him if he was deported, so he can't be deported. You know, what is going on? I mean, there's going to be 1,000 a day, it seems to me, before we get into the summer.
Yeah, you look at the actual statistics, we are now, I think, about 42% up currently than where we were this time last year. So it's pretty clear now to anyone that's been following this that the Labour Party, far from actually dealing with the situation, you know, tackling the asylum backlog and stopping the boats, are actually making the situation a whole lot worse. They've been scrabbling around since they got elected and had put in the bin the Rwanda scheme, which had some semblance of truth to it and would likely have, if we'd left the ECHR, had actually, you know, done somewhat to stymie the flows. But they've been staggering around from gimmick to gimmick, really without an idea of how they actually bring the numbers down. And unfortunately, now we're hearing again, you know, these plans to do a deal with France potentially on the table as well that would only make the situation worse. It's a government that are completely cloth ear to the concerns of the public about this issue and are now just staggering around without a clue.
Well, I mean, this idea of one-for-one exchange with France is mad, isn't it? I mean, we got it breaking into the show just before we finished the show yesterday, about 9:30, where it was like, you know, I likened it to sort of loading, at that point, 700 people onto sort of 14 coaches, driving them all onto a ferry, taking them all to France, dropping them all off, and then picking up another coach, 14 coach loads full of 700 more people, and bringing them back here. What's the point? You know, you're not reducing the numbers, you're just bringing different migrants in.
Exactly, and you made a great point earlier in the show that those people that we'd be bringing over from France are far more likely to have their asylum application ultimately approved as well. If they're purporting to know someone in the UK already, then the likelihood is that the Home Office will be greenlighting their asylum application. So that does nothing to actually, you know, deal with the creaking asylum system that we have. There is only actually really one solution at the moment to tackle what, you know, is a £6 billion bill that the taxpayers been having hoisted upon them every single year, and that's to actually freeze temporarily the asylum claims, because that is a huge deterrent. It sends a very clear message to those people coming across on the boats that, you know, if you come into the UK illegally, you're not going to have the right to stay long term. And it also allows us to get to grips with what has been an escalating crisis that has been burdening taxpayers with huge bills.
And also, do they think we're really stupid? I mean, do they really think that's the case? Because, you know, first of all, the 700 that you take back and dump in France again are probably going to come back over on the next dinghy. You know, their view is that, oh, well, if we cut out the ability for them to stay, then they won't be paying loads of money to get on dinghies. Well, lots of them don't pay money to come on the dinghies. They get themselves into hock to work for some gangmasters, or they work for some drug gang or something, and they work in the black market, and they pay back the money, supposedly, that they would have been paying to come over. So there's not always a cash exchange. And also, the numbers of people who would claim to have relatives here would probably go up massively, because our hapless Home Office would just go, oh, you've got a relative in Leicester, have you? Oh, that's fine. What's their name? Oh, here it is. And they'll just let them in.
Yeah, quite right, exactly right. And let's not forget as well that only a third of asylum claims are actually of those coming across the boats as well. A large number are coming via legal routes and then overstaying their visas. So what I would do if I was a would-be economic migrant purporting to be an asylum seeker, I'd get myself on a tourist visa, stay in the UK, tell my family members, tell my mates, get yourself to France. I'll then claim asylum. You then say you know me. Before you know it, they're getting hoisted over, and we're swapping out some people that have come across on a boat. So the problem will only escalate. I mean, it's a clear increase in the pull factor that, you know, we have got so many already as it is, but this is just another addition to the stockpile at this point. We are fast becoming the soft touch of Europe, and I am very concerned that if we get dragged into any kind of scheme or collaboration with France, that would then proliferate, and we'd end up, before you know it, in some Europe-wide scheme in which the whole continent is just dumping their problems on us as well. We know for a fact that the British officials are just incompetent when it comes to negotiating with Europe, so I can well see that happening.
And we can also see now that Keir Starmer is edging ever closer to Europe with every single day that passes. You know, he wants to get closer trade, he wants to get closer kind of, you know, connections with net zero agreements and things like that. So there's almost bound to be some kind of overall European, you know, migrant policy that he's going to sign himself up to.
Yeah, well, he's a Europhile by heart, isn't he? He was, you know, Remainer in chief in his worldview, working with Europe is the be all and end all, which is, ironic given that this is a prime minister that, if he'd played his cards slightly differently, could have been one of the biggest beneficiaries of the Brexit freedoms that were actually available to him, with the potential for a trade deal with the US on the table. But, he is well and truly wedded to the idea that Europe knows best. And I think that is probably what we're going to see over the next couple of years, is him increasingly trying to cozy up to them and to bend to their will.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, let's hope we can try and put a stop to that. Robert Bates, thank you very much indeed, Research Director of the Centre for Migration Control.